Greetings, Earthlings! On a previous episode of Terrific TV Toys, we showed you some vintage Star Trek Mego figures, along with one reproduction Star Trek figure. So let's continue that tour around the galaxy now with 3 more figures. They're all modern reproductions. 2 of them are Star Trek aliens, 1 of them happens to be a security chief, and each one of them is an out-of-the-box experience. The second alien in our 3-parter is the Keeper from Star Trek, and this is a reproduction of a Mego figure from about 1975-1976. This one is from 2008 by Diamond Select Toys / EMCE Toys, and I purchased it at a comic shop in London, Ontario, Canada, just like the figure that you saw of the Andorian in part 1. And the name of that comic shop was Heroes Comics on Dundas Street in London, Ontario. And they're very cool. And I even paid the same amount as what you saw in part 1. I paid $9.99 for this Canadian. Again, a really good deal. Okay, so several things to talk about as far as this action figure in relation to the original Star Trek television episodes. As pointed out on MegoMuseum.com, which, by the way, if you go to MegoMuseum.com and look this one up, you'll see a photo of the new figure side by side with the original figure. And Diamond and EMCE really got this close because it's hard to tell the difference. This is a really good reproduction. But MegoMuseum.com also points out that this figure really is a hybrid of a couple different aliens that you saw in the original Star Trek series. And in fact, all in November 1966. It's kind of strange because this figure was inspired by the alien that you saw, the image of the alien that you saw on the view screen of the Enterprise in Corbomite Maneuver, which aired on November 10th, 1966. And then also the alien known as the Keeper, the Telosian, from the 2-parter called the Menagerie, which aired the week after that, and then the week after that, November 17th and 24th, 1966. So 3 weeks in a row, the 3 episodes that you saw airing originally on Star Trek were the inspiration for this figure. In the Menagerie, which we know, if you're a hardcore Star Trek fan, you know that that was later that was like footage from the original Star Trek pilot starring Jeffrey Hunter as Christopher Pike in the pilot that was called The Cage, and it was a lot of that footage was repackaged as the 2-parter Menagerie. The alien was referred to as the Keeper, so that's where the name comes from. But this alien really looks like what you saw in the Corbomite Maneuver. It looks more like that, I say, because in the Corbomite Maneuver, you see this long head, you see the blue skin. You don't see the robe. The robe is not from either alien. The robe is different because in the Corbomite Maneuver, the alien you saw there wore a gray robe with a fit collar. It wasn't a stand-up collar like this. It was a fit collar, and it was solid gray. And then in the Menagerie / the Cage, it was a silver material, silvery gray robe. So this robe that is unique to this figure. But yeah, getting back to the physical appearance, because I know this is a lot of complicated details, but it's worth explaining. In the Menagerie / the Cage, the alien that you saw, the Telosian, was not blue-skinned, more of our own flesh tone, a human flesh tone and a human facial features more, not the long face like this. And then you could see the Telosian, had the veins bulging from his head and all that, which is kind of reminiscent of this. But really, when it comes down to it, this figure takes the name of the Telosian. The Keeper is how that sort of lead Telosian was referred to in the Menagerie / the Cage. But really, the rest of it, I would argue, is in appearance similar to the Corbomite Maneuver. So does that make sense at all? I don't know. It's confusing. I will note, too, that in the Menagerie / the Cage, those Telosians that you saw, they're from Talos 4. that actually were females playing those roles, and then their voices, they were voiced over by male actors. And in the original pilot of The Cage, starring Jeffrey Hunter, as I mentioned, Malachi Throne voiced the lead, the keeper. But when they repackaged it for the two-parter Menagerie, they changed the pitch of his voice because Malachi Throne then took a regular role in that two-parter as the Commodore that talks to Kirk and Spock. So they didn't want the voice to be confusing in both places. So let's take a look at this guy. We got the packaging that shows the wave, all the other figures, and if you turn it over, you see a little bit more of those. We've got Lieutenant Sulu, we've got Scotty, Chekhov, Lieutenant Uhura, Gorn, the Charon, the Keeper, and the Mogatu, that adorable little ape-like figure with the big horn on his head. So those were the figures that Diamond Select Toys / EMCE created as reproductions, for the most part, of Mego action figures that we loved in the 1970s. So we've got the packaging the same as what you saw in part 1 with the logos across the bottom and a little bit of verbiage about Marty Abrams, who founded Mego. And let's open this guy. This packaging is in a little bit better shape than what you saw in part 1 for the Andorian, because this part is solid. But I'm still not going to keep the packaging, even though I'll point out again that it's designed to be opened and then resealed. If you're a collector who likes to leave things in the packaging, but you really want to touch your figure, your toy, and see what it's all about, this seems to answer that need. But I'm just going to cut it open and throw away the packaging because I don't need to do that. I'm an out-of-the-box kind of girl, so that's why in the Terrific TV Toys series, you'll see plenty of episodes that are what I call out-of-box experiences. So I'm going to follow the instructions, and I'm going to cut along here with my skizzles and see if I can get this guy out of his plastic prison. This is real tough plastic. You saw this in part 1 too. This is pretty heckin' durable. So let's get that cut and see if we can separate that. No, not yet. I might not have cut down far enough. I'm just gonna, because I don't care about the packaging, I'm just gonna cut where I want to. This is a one-take episode. You can see this is real. This is like you're standing here opening it yourself with all the pitfalls that entails. Okay, let me separate that. Okay, this one's gonna yield to my will a little bit more easily than the one in the last episode. Okay, again, what they call the card, but it's pretty pliable, more like nice, glossy, thick paper stock that I will hang on to because it's nice. And then the keeper himself, which we'll take out of here. Oh, interesting. This is different from the Andorian. There's a little plastic attachment here that I guess kept him somewhat posed in that packaging. Okay, so here he is. Here is the keeper. And I think it was MegoMuseum.com that pointed out with this figure, with the original Mego figure, that this is based on. One nice thing about the original is that you really didn't lose any parts because there were no accessories. He literally was only wearing his robe. That's all there is to him, so there's really nothing to lose. And it's easier to find this one intact years later. And the reproductions certainly follows that suit. So you've got the robe. We'll look at a little bit of detail of this white and orange robe that, again, as I mentioned, is not based on any of those episodes I mentioned. It's got a snap in the back. Okay, and then you can see his copyright. Let me kind of bump that up, allow it to focus a little bit. It says copyright 2008 CBS on the back of his head. And then EMCEtoys.com, website made in China, right there on his back. And he's got the blue skin. Basically, I think also Mego Museum, which is my authority, by the way. I love those guys and I love that site. I think they're the ones that also said that they use basically the same mold or body for this one as the Andorian that I showed you in the last episode of Terrific TV Toys, because it's blue, same color blue. And in the Corbomite maneuver, that alien image that you saw on the view screen, which actually was an illusion, Kirk and his crew found out later when they landed and talked to this guy, Baylock, that it was just an illusion. But it was blue. It was blue like this, same basic shape of the head, not the big red lips, open mouth. I don't know what's going on with that. That was a little different from the episode. Rest of it's basically the same. He was blue. So we've got the articulation that you would find in any Mego figure. He's not wearing anything under that robe. Definitely no parts to lose for this figure. And yeah, he's very simple. He's cute. And he's a fine addition to your Mego collection and or your Star Trek collection. So stay tuned. We got part 3 coming at you next week.